Why does a living body slowly dim, even when nothing seems wrong on the surface? Why does a cell that worked flawlessly yesterday suddenly struggle today? Why does a healthy person feel time tightening its grip long before the face in the mirror shows any change? These questions feel unsettling because they touch something universal. Every heartbeat, every memory, every small decision is built on a physical system that quietly erodes, almost as if a hidden error were running in the background. Scientists have spent decades trying to capture this error, yet the deeper they look, the more complicated the picture becomes. What if aging isn't just a clock counting down, but a slow accumulation of tiny biological missteps? What if those missteps don't simply happen to us, but are part of the same machinery that keeps us alive every day? And what if the reason we age is not a single flaw, but an entire network of microscopic compromises that begin the moment life starts? Over the next moments, the story unfolds through the chemistry of damaged molecules, the resilience of cells under constant stress, and the strange trade-offs nature made long before humans existed. Each layer reveals how survival and decay are intertwined in ways that feel both logical and unsettling. The puzzle stretches from DNA repair systems that never reach perfection to energy production processes that slowly poison the very cells they power. None of this answers the core question fully, but each detail pulls the thread tighter. Is the hidden biological error something we could ever correct? Or is it woven so deeply into the architecture of life that escaping it would require rebuilding biology from the ground up? These ideas shape the journey ahead, leaving the final truth unresolved but impossible to ignore. Imagine a city that repairs itself every second, replacing worn bricks with new ones while traffic keeps moving and lights never go off. Now imagine that each repair is done slightly too late, or slightly imperfectly, so tiny cracks begin to form beneath fresh layers of asphalt. No single crack matters, but over years they connect, deepen, and reshape the entire city. A human body works in a similar way, constantly renewing itself while quietly accumulating mistakes that slip through even the best repair teams. Inside each cell, the core machinery relies on molecules that carry information, produce energy, and maintain structural order. DNA is the instruction manual, proteins are the workers, and mitochondria are the power stations that keep the system running. Aging emerges when this machinery accumulates damage faster than it can be repaired, creating a gradual mismatch between what the body needs and what the body can deliver. This mismatch is often described as loss of homeostasis, meaning the system slowly fails to keep internal conditions within safe limits. At the heart of this process lies molecular damage. DNA replication introduces small errors each time a cell divides, even with sophisticated proofreading enzymes. Proteins misfold under heat, stress, or chemical exposure, reducing their effectiveness and sometimes forming harmful aggregates. Mitochondria leak reactive oxygen molecules during normal energy production, which then damage nearby structures. These forms of damage accumulate unevenly, creating pockets of vulnerability across tissues. One observation that stands out is the shortening of telomeres, the protective caps on DNA that shrink with every cell division. Shorter telomeres correlate with increased cellular stress and reduced regenerative capacity. A second observation involves mitochondrial mutations, which increase with age and impair the cell's ability to produce energy efficiently. A third comes from protein quality control systems like autophagy, which become less effective over time, allowing defective components to remain inside cells. Together, these patterns reveal that aging is not a single malfunction but a cascade of small failures. Yet, alternative explanations challenge the idea that damage alone drives aging. Some theories propose programmed longevity, meaning organisms may age due to evolutionary trade-offs rather than simple wear. Under this view, biological systems allocate resources toward growth and reproduction while accepting long-term decline as a side effect. Another model focuses on metabolic rate, suggesting that species with faster energy turnover accumulate damage sooner, though exceptions make this model incomplete. A third perspective highlights immune regulation, arguing that chronic inflammation accelerates aging, but only in combination with other mechanisms. Each model works in certain contexts and breaks down in others, revealing how multifactorial the process is. Damage accumulation fits well with molecular evidence but struggles to explain species with slow aging despite high metabolic activity. Programmed aging explains evolutionary patterns but lacks clear molecular switches. Inflammation-based models capture environmental effects but cannot fully account for internal cellular deterioration. Current data leans toward a blended explanation, where multiple mechanisms interact and amplify each other. Despite extensive research, key uncertainties remain. Scientists still cannot fully map how small-scale molecular damage becomes large-scale functional decline. Predicting individual aging trajectories is limited by incomplete knowledge of genetic variation, environmental exposure, and random biological noise. Existing models also cannot determine whether slowing aging requires stopping damage, improving repair, or redesigning the entire system. More precise biomarkers, deeper cellular mapping, and long-term observational studies are needed before any definitive answer becomes possible. Aging begins to make sense when the hidden questions from the start are finally brought into focus. The body ages because its repair systems, though remarkably sophisticated, never achieve perfection. Every cell relies on molecular instructions that slowly degrade, and every tissue depends on energy systems that generate their own harmful byproducts. Over decades, these small imperfections accumulate until they reshape the entire biological landscape. One of the central questions was why a living body dims even when it appears healthy. The answer lies in the steady loss of homeostasis as cells struggle to balance damage and repair. DNA breaks accumulate faster than they can be fixed, proteins misfold more often, and mitochondria leak reactive molecules that wear down the structures around them. The body does not fail suddenly but erodes through thousands of microscopic compromises happening simultaneously. Another question asked why a cell that worked flawlessly yesterday begins to struggle today. Cells operate under constant stress from metabolism, temperature, and chemical exposure. Even the most efficient repair enzymes make mistakes, and even the strongest antioxidant defenses miss certain molecules. A cell reaches decline not because of a single catastrophic event but because the balance between damage and repair gradually shifts against it. A deeper question wondered whether aging reflects a single flaw or an entire network of interconnected problems. Current evidence shows that no isolated mechanism can fully explain the process. Telomeres shrink, mitochondria mutate, protein folding systems weaken, and immune regulation becomes unstable. Each mechanism feeds into the next, creating a layered system of damage that accelerates with time. One final question asked whether the biological error could ever be corrected. The truth is complicated. Parts of the system can be slowed or temporarily reinforced, but the underlying architecture of life was built with trade-offs that prioritize short-term survival over perfect long-term maintenance. Undoing those trade-offs would require altering fundamental aspects of biology, from DNA replication to energy metabolism. Aging is therefore not a malfunction in the traditional sense but a consequence of biological design. It reflects the limits of cellular repair, the chemical cost of metabolism, and the evolutionary compromises that shaped human physiology. The hidden error exists, but it is woven into the same processes that make life possible. Aging reveals something larger than a list of damaged molecules or imperfect repair systems. It shows how every living structure carries both strength and fragility in the same architecture. A human body can climb mountains, kill broken bones, and adapt to new environments. Yet it cannot escape the slow drift of entropy woven into its chemistry. The very processes that create vitality also generate the byproducts that quietly reshape it. There is a quiet humility in recognizing that aging is not a punishment but a reflection of how life works. Every heartbeat relies on energy that leaves a trace of wear, and every memory depends on neural activity that slightly changes the brain. The body is constantly rebuilding itself while carrying the history of everything it has survived. In that sense, aging becomes a record of endurance rather than a sign of failure. Yet the scientific search continues because understanding these processes opens the door to better health, longer vitality, and perhaps wiser decisions about how to treat the body over decades. No current model offers a complete roadmap, but each insight helps illuminate how cells respond to stress, how repair systems decline, and how small changes accumulate into visible transformation. The unanswered questions are not evidence of defeat. They are an invitation to keep exploring. Stepping back, aging becomes a reminder that time is not simply something that happens to living systems. Time interacts with biology, rewrites it, and gives it depth. Life gains meaning because it changes, reshapes itself, and carries both the resilience and vulnerability that define being human. Understanding that balance does not eliminate uncertainty, but it brings a sense of clarity about what it means to move through the world in a living body. Thank you for watching. If this exploration resonated, consider subscribing and sharing your thoughts in the comments.